Hi guys, today we're back here in the garden. We're going to have a look at the watermelons that are growing in containers and the ones that are growing in the ground. And I'm also going to be sharing some tips with you. Hopefully it'll be helpful. These were just fertilized a couple of days ago. I like to fertilize my watermelons that are growing in containers every 2 weeks. You could probably do every 10 to 14 days or so if you would like. So we're starting here with this Alibaba watermelon plant. So far this one is looking really good. It doesn't have any watermelons on it yet, but I am starting to see some female flowers on this one. It's not uncommon for your watermelon plants to produce a whole lot of male flowers for a week or two before you'll ever see a female flower. I get asked that question a lot. Why don't I have any female flowers yet? It's not any kind of issue. You just have to be patient. Now, if all your female flowers are just dying off and the watermelon fruits aren't forming in their place, then you could try hand pollinating your watermelons. The female flowers have this little tiny watermelon just below the petals. That's how you can differentiate them from the male flowers. One way to hand pollinate your female flowers is to pick several male flowers off of your watermelon plants and then just dab the centers onto the center of your female flowers. The reason I recommend using several flowers is because it takes more than one visit from a bee to pollinate a flower. If you are seeing bees in your garden, just be patient. You don't have to hand pollinate them unless you want to. Once the female flower is done, the petals are going to fall off and you're going to be left with this little watermelon fruit. It's either going to rot off because it didn't get pollinated or it's going to grow. You'll be able to tell usually just within a couple of days after that flower falls off whether it's going to take or not, because it grows really fast. Now back to the variety. This is Alibaba. It's a very reliable variety for me. Every time I grow it, I've been very happy with it. My plants always get a fungal disease called alternaria leaf blight, and this variety seems to get it later than my other plants do, and it holds up to the disease better. So I highly recommend this if you live in a climate where you have humid summers that's prone to fungal disease. This is a great variety. This is really how big I would like a watermelon plant to be before it even starts producing female flowers. So even though this one is just now starting to produce some female flowers and they're starting to get pollinated, it's really in the best shape out of all three of my container watermelon plants. The other two plants do have watermelons on them, so let's go take a look at those. This is the Royal Golden watermelon, and I have 3 little watermelon fruits growing on here. This is the big one, and there's also a couple of small ones. My plants in the ground and in containers usually produce about 1 to 3 watermelons per plant. When there's 3 on one plant, the watermelons are going to be smaller. When there's only 1 watermelon on a plant, it usually ends up being a pretty big one, as long as it's genetically predispositioned to be a larger variety, of course. Even though this plant has 3 little watermelons on it, it'll continue to produce some female flowers, and some of them will be pollinated. But what usually happens is it'll start to grow a little bit, and then the plant will usually end up self-aborting the little watermelon because it's already putting so much energy into growing the other fruit. I may even actually cull one of these little watermelons here so that the other 2 can grow a little bit bigger. When growing in pots, the watermelons tend to be smaller than the ones that you grow in the ground anyway. I think I'd rather have 1 big one or 2 medium ones instead of 3 small ones. But that's entirely up to you, and depending on your climate and your growing conditions, you may be able to grow more watermelons on one plant than I can. I grew Royal Golden a couple of years ago, and I said that I probably wouldn't ever grow it again, but I am growing it again. When I did grow it a couple of years ago, I noticed that it was a little bit more susceptible to the fungal disease that my watermelon plants get than other varieties. But it's so pretty, I just couldn't resist. I'm growing it again. I have saw a couple of leaves with fungal disease on them, and I just removed those leaves. Just like with tomatoes, fungal disease usually starts at the base of the plant and works its way up the vine. Some of the leaves down here at the base of the plant are yellow. They've been like that for a while. It's really pretty normal for this variety. The yellow skin varieties lots of times will have leaves that are a little bit yellow. The whole plant's not going to turn yellow, but some of the leaves will turn yellow. And if you look closely here, even the stem is very yellow. This is pretty normal for this variety, so if you grow Royal Golden, don't worry too much if you see a little bit of yellowing on the leaves. Next is the Golden Midget. Right now the watermelon is this light green color, but it's eventually going to turn yellow skin. I'm not thrilled with this plant right now. Even though I have this cute little watermelon growing, the vines on this one are really short. The leaves aren't very big. Unless you're growing a bush variety, long vines are a really good indicator of a nice healthy watermelon plant. Large leaves are a good indicator of a healthy watermelon plant, and generally you want to have longer vines and larger leaves before your plants start really producing fruit. So I've thought about it a lot, and I'm trying to figure out what I've done differently with this pot than the other two pots. The only thing I can think of is that this specific pot has a lot more holes in the bottom of it than the other two pots do. So I think that this pot is just drying out easier and not retaining as much water as the other two pots, and it's just negatively impacted this plant a little bit. I'm not going to complain too much about it. There is a watermelon in here, so I'm going to get a watermelon off the plant. Plus, I have a whole bunch more watermelon plants growing in the ground right here. I don't even think I've shown you guys these plants this year. I've been focusing my videos a lot on the container grown watermelons since I already have so many videos on how to grow watermelons in the ground. But stay tuned because you will be seeing them in my future videos. The varieties I have here are Tom Watson, Alibaba, Blacktail Mountain, Congo, Klondike, Striped Blue Ribbon, and Moon and Stars. I have one watermelon fruit growing so far in this patch, and I think it's a Blacktail Mountain. Like the Golden Midget, it's an early maturing variety. When growing the early maturing varieties, you'll see those form on your plants first. All of these look pretty good so far. Most of them have really nice large leaves on them. That's a really good sign, as I said before. If you ever grow the Yellow Moon and Stars variety, you might notice that there's little yellow speckles all over the leaves, and that's completely normal for that variety. Don't worry about it. The fruit on this variety has these little yellow dots all over them, and the foliage looks just like it. It does as well. That's it for this video. I'm going to keep you updated on how the watermelons are doing as the season progresses. We're also going to have a look at the rest of the garden, and I'm going to make some videos on my tomatoes and other things growing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.